Let's now go to Middle East expert Ali Risk, who has been standing by to speak to us. We appreciate you doing just that. You're welcome to the programme. You may have seen the footage there that we were just showing our viewers. It seemed that the people were talking, I'm not an expert by any means, but it seems just from listening to various people speaking about it that it was the Turkmen dialect of Syria. Who are these people?
Well, we cannot say specifically who they are with complete certainty, but from the way they look, from the terms they were using as well, you know, these jihadist terms, which are usually used by Al-Qaeda or its affiliates, we can safely assume that it's, you know, one of the extremist groups who share the same takfiri ideology as ISIS and as, and like Jabhat al-Nusra. Now, I'm not sure if they are indeed al-Nusra or ISIS, but I think it's safe to say they're from the same school of thought, from the same type of groups, if we can assume. Now, if we take that into perspective, I think that once again goes, poses a lot of questions about what Turkey's relations with extremist groups are. We know that Turkey has close ties with Ahrar al-Sham, for example. Ahrar al-Sham is considered to be very close and is known to have previously collaborated with the Nusra Front. So once again now I think there'll be more and more questions posed as to what kind of a relationship there is.
Well, of course,
Turkey.
Sorry for interrupting, because I just want to say, of course, as you mentioned, we don't know who these people are, but it does seem to suggest that the fighters in Latakia, they're enjoying the support of Turkey. It's safe to say, I suppose, at this stage. Why would Ankara support people who are shouting a battle cry of the Islamists?
Well, I think it's pretty clear. Turkey has quite stubbornly, if I may say, stuck to this position. Not Turkey, I must have to say the Erdogan government, to put it in that perspective, has stuck to this position of toppling the Syrian president Bashar al-Assad. They see it as part of a return of the Ottoman Empire, etc. Now, why did Turkey go ahead now? There were indeed some important signs before this happened that Turkey was intending to escalate. If you recall, earlier this month, on November 20th, which is about 5 days ago, we saw some escalatory Turkish rhetoric saying that Russia and the Syrian army have to stop their operation in northern Syria being Aleppo. We also have Latakia close by, Idlib. Turkey stated that there was we had the very significant step of Turkey summoning the Russian envoy in Ankara to express their dismay about the Russian support for the Syrian military operations in the north. So with the increased likelihood that the Syrian army and its allies were going to retake complete control of the Aleppo province, now we have Turkey responding, which goes to show that the Russian intervention in support of its allies was making a lot of advances on the ground. Therefore, Turkey, with its hawkish anti-Assad policy, felt itself obliged to intervene before more advances are made on the ground on the border, on this northern frontier. So I think those are the Turkish calculations, in addition to two other factors, if you allow me, one of them being the fact that Turkey might want to, drag NATO into some kind of a collision course with Russia as a result of what happened. We even heard Ahmed Davutoglu, the Turkish Prime Minister, saying just hours after this latest incident that Turkey would coordinate and consult with NATO, which shows you that maybe the Turks indeed want to drag NATO into a confrontation. And you also have another factor, which is a psychological boost of morale for the extremist groups who have been suffering setback after setback ever since Russia began to intervene. These images, when you post images of these people celebrating and saying that they're going to burn a Russian soldier, etc., that also could be viewed as kind of a way to boost the morale of the extremists, of the anti-Assad forces, after they lost a lot of territory to the Syrian troops and their allies.
It's Kevin here, Kevin Owen in the studio along with Yunan. Hi there, Ali. Just standing back from this for a minute, again, for viewers that have just joined us, and just trying to take stock of the information that's come in today. Some of it's unverified. Turkey's saying one thing, Russia's saying another. Russia is saying point blank that that plane was not in Turkish territory, it was in Syrian territory. It's also saying it has the data to prove it. Well, OK, well, that'll be remains to be seen over the coming hours. I'm sure it'll be proved if they say they've got it. Is there any chance at all, just standing back from this, that it could have been an accident?
I would say that's highly unlikely. I mean, anything's possible, but if you look at the sequence of events, you know, beginning from the victory of Erdogan in the elections, his, you know, escalated rhetoric after he won the elections against President Assad, the criticism made by the Turks also to the Russian military intervention. From the beginning, it was clear that the Turks were against the Russian military intervention. It was made, I think Turkey made that clearer more than any other country. If you also look at the fact that, you know, Turkey has spoken about, has been the most supportive and most vocal in calling for a no-fly zone as well. If you add all those factors, along with, as I said, with Erdogan's recent election victory, you know, that makes it very, very unlikely that this would have been an accident. In addition to the fact that I don't think that Russia would have any...
Now, yeah?
Yes.
Ali, just to let our viewers know, we, as you say yourself, we saw the Turkish Prime Minister just within the last hour addressing the media. From the Russian side of it, President Putin is due to give a media conference anytime soon. As soon as that happens, we're going to take our viewers straight over to it. So just a bit of a news alert, really. So if we've got to dip out of this chat, it's because we're going to go over to the pictures, the live news event there of President Putin making the latest comment on it. But back to you for now. One of the rebels, we think, could be heard saying there in the background of that grainy video that we showed our viewers just now, saying that he should have burned the pilot as soon as he found him. It appears the pilot was dead when this, what looks like rebel group came across him. How does that sit with the image, the line that's been put over all the time, of course, that a lot of these rebels, these guys are moderate rebels, so to speak. It's something that Russia's very much disputed, but the West has been trying to portray them as moderate people, so to speak.
You know, indeed, actually, that reminds me of the burning of the Jordanian pilot, if you recall that particular incident, who was placed in a cage. You're dealing, therefore, probably with the same individuals and, as I said, the same school of thought. But, you know, this issue of moderate rebels and good guys as opposed to bad guys, I think, you know, that particular depiction of the situation or that formula has lost its steam. Nobody buys this argument anymore, particularly, you know, particularly with the fact that this Takfiri terrorism has spread and has now poses a worldwide danger, not just a danger in the region, but a worldwide danger due to what happened in Paris and the latest also incidents which we saw in Mali, in Africa, which was, but that particular incident was by Al-Qaeda, by the way. So nobody indeed buys this argument, and this will only, you know, further strengthen those who say, look, it will strengthen the Russian, also the Russian perspective, which says that there is no such moderate opposition, or practically no moderate armed opposition in Syria, and therefore our priority should be to fight this terrorism. So in one way or another, this should strengthen the Russian line of thinking or the Russian perspective. But at the same time, I'm still, you know, somewhat pessimistic that inside America, not the Obama administration, but you have the, you know, old neocons, anti-Russian Cold War school of thought people, regardless of whatever information, whatever evidence will come out, they will continue to use the term moderate rebels. They'll continue to depict, you know, the Syrian president and the Russian president and all the allies in that camp as the bad guys, and the moderate, so-called moderate rebels as good guys. That is going to continue from some elements. As I said, some Republicans, the so-called Cold War school of thought, Turkey, you know, some Persian Gulf Arab countries like the Saudis, like the Qataris. What I, for one, would be interested in seeing, or what I await, is to hear how the Obama administration would view this. I think that is a key issue, because if you do recall, Obama himself had earlier said that there's no such thing as armed moderate opposition. The only moderates are lawyers and doctors and dentists who can't take up arms. Now, so we have to wait and see, what will Obama's reaction be? Will it turn out that, the Americans were informed, they had approved, or is it that Turkey is trying to push the Americans and NATO into a confrontation? So that, I think, is something which we must wait for, what the Western reaction, particularly the White House reaction, will be to this incident.
Yeah, it's going to be crucial, isn't it? Ali Risk, for now, thanks for your thoughts, Middle East expert as you are.